Well, in the words of the great Nasser Hussain, the Ashes are well and truly alive. Well, not because of Benjamin Stokes this time around at Headingley, but hey, thanks to Mark Wood and Chris Woakes, the Ashes are still alive because Australia have finally been defeated and England have pulled it back to 2-1 after winning the third test match at Headingley. Yeah, so if you are an England fan, make sure you are liking this podcast on YouTube and giving me 5-star ratings on Spotify. And even if you are not an England fan, you are an Australian fan listening to this podcast, might as well like as well because you are still 2-1 up in the series. Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cricket Corner podcast with me, Vatsal Vora, as we look back and review the third test match between England and Australia in the Ashes at Headingley, where England have recorded a 3-wicket victory at the end of day 4. Well, it was one of those low-scoring test matches, which in my opinion are usually a lot more interesting than the ones which have 400, 500 runs scored by each team. I think none of the sides here today managed more than 260 runs in either of their innings, so those are the kind of test matches you usually like me personally, that is. England needed 251 runs to win the third test match at Headingley. They were 27-0, if I'm not wrong, towards the end of day 3, needing 224 on day 4, with all 10 wickets remaining in their hands. Kind of fell apart a little here and there. Australia chipped back. There were a few moments here and there, but England kept their nerves and recorded a 3-wicket victory thanks to Mark Wood and Chris Woakes. It is so fitting that it was Mark Wood and Chris Woakes at the crease, that is, when England recorded the win at Headingley, because I personally and a lot of people on social media and in sports media cricketing media in general, wanted Mark Wood and Chris Woakes in the team, and how fitting that it was the pair who guided England to that first victory in the Ashes series. Mark Wood was just magnificent. He was picked in place of Josh Tongue. The injured Ollie Pope was replaced by Chris Woakes, and the pair was just incredible, not only with the bat but with the ball as well, and the pair really guided England to the victory as far as the Ashes test match is concerned. Let's start by talking about the player of the match, that was Mark Wood. Amazing test match. You couldn't say that this bloke has not played international cricket for quite some time now, but the way he made a comeback in this English side and the way he bowled with his heart out and with the sheer pace that he possesses, I think that was the fundamental reason why Australia could only manage 263 in the first innings. Mark Wood ended the first innings with a 5-wicket haul, 5 for 34 in the first innings, and he picked up some very, very crucial wickets. He got Usman Khawaja, he got Alex Carey, and he wrapped up the tail with the wickets of Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins and Todd Murphy, who played in place of the injured Nathan Lyon. Australia have a tendency of hanging out there as far as their tail is concerned. Mitchell Starc is really good with the bat. Pat Cummins has already played a match-winning knock in this Ashes series with the bat as well. So it was quite important for someone to step up and get these wickets early, because you have already dismissed Australia, or the bunch of Australian batsmen early on in the first innings, and you need to wrap up the tail so you can come out there and bat, and that's exactly what Mark Wood did. Wonderful bowling. I think he cleaned up 3 batsmen. I think he cleaned up Usman Khawaja, Mitchell Starc and Todd Murphy, and a wonderful Yorker to dismiss Pat Cummins trapped in front LBW in the first innings as well. And his job in the first innings was not done with his 5-wicket haul. When he came out to bat, when England were kind of struggling with Stokes looking to play along with the tail once again, he made a quick fire 24 of just 8 deliveries. He's scoring 3 sixes and a 4 along the way to, propel the score to as much as close they can get to Australia's 263. Eventually, England only managed 237, but it was Mark Wood's wonderful 24 of just 8 deliveries that helped them reached to a total which was close enough to Australia's 264, which eventually saw them get a target of 251, which they chased down on day 4. Mark Wood has been excellent, and people have been saying all over social media and in sport and in cricketing fraternity as a whole that they want to see Mark Wood in this test squad, not only because he's a very quick bowler, but he's really handy with the bat as well, as he showed showed in the first innings, and then played a crucial knock in the second innings as well. 16 of 8 balls in the second innings, if you are curious. The reason why people wanted to see Mark Wood is because of his sheer pace, don't get us wrong, and it's really good to see him deliver on that front as well, because once Mark Wood get in, you have got that X factor which you kind of lacked, which Australia lacked as well until Mitchell Starc played in the second test. Mark Wood has had a similar kind of impact as far as the English side is concerned, and it's really promising to see that. Now people have been as I mentioned already, people have been wanting Mark Wood in the team for quite some time now, and to the surprise of many, people were a little bit shocked to see Josh Tongue play in the second test match at Lord's. And don't get me wrong, Josh Tongue was absolutely magnificent in the Lord's test match, but had it been Mark Wood, it would have been something different. Well, kind of, because yes, Josh Tongue is a fast bowler and he's rapid with the ball as well, but Mark Wood possesses something completely different, and that X factor kind of helped England to the victory here at Headingley. So credit to Mark Wood as well. And someone else who has been around the English test squad but hasn't played for over a year is Chris Woakes. Now, surprise, Chris Woakes also had a tremendous game. 3 wickets in the first innings, 3 wickets in the second innings, and 32 not out in the second innings, which saw England get over the line and claim the victory at Headingley. So once again, even Chris Woakes had a really interesting and fun outing at Headingley and helping England win with 3 wickets remaining. The pair of Mark Wood and Chris Woakes, so England picked 20 wickets in total. Mark Wood picking 7 wickets, 5 in the first innings, 2 in the second innings, and 6 wickets for Chris Woakes. So how much that is, like 13 wickets between the pair out of the 20 wickets that England picked eventually over the course of this test match. It was just magnificent, and credit to Chris Woakes as well. So I think he picked up 3 wickets in either innings, but I think the 3 wickets which he picked in the second innings on day 3 were quite important, because day 3 was kind of like 90% of the day was washed out because of rain and wet outfield, and it was really crucial for England to get those wickets, Australian wickets, early on to put pressure, and that is exactly what Chris Woakes managed to do. I think he picked up the all-important wicket of Mitchell Marsh, who scored a breathtaking 118 in the first innings as he replaced the injured Cameron Green. He picked up the wicket of let me have a look he picked up the wicket of Mitchell Marsh. Then he also picked up the wicket of Usman Khawaja in the second innings as well, and he was magnificent, and he even picked up the wicket of Alex Carey. So getting the wicket of Carey and Mitchell Marsh in a relatively quick succession really helped England get into that tail, and then Mark Wood did what Mark Wood does best and cleaned up the tail. It was just magnificent to see. As far as the English chase is concerned, a lot of credit obviously goes to Chris Woakes for his 32, Mark Wood scoring 16 of 8 deliveries as well, but it was Harry Brook who commanded and led that England chase. 75 of 93 deliveries for Harry Brook. I think he became the fastest player in Test history to get to 1,000 runs. So credit to Harry Brook in that regard as well. 9 fours along the way, along his innings of 75, and it was really, really well measured. He did fall to Mitchell Starc towards the end of the run chase, but it was really, really good to see. I think when Harry Brook was dismissed. England needed 21 runs and had 3 wickets remaining. Some England fans might have been tensed here and there, but out of those 21 runs required, 16 were scored off the bat of Mark Wood, which just took the pressure off the English shoulders. Harry Brook has had a pretty average Ashes series so far. Coming into the Ashes, he was obviously one of England's finest batsmen. 809 odd runs scored in less than 1 year in his test career. He was impeccable in New Zealand. He was brilliant in Pakistan as well. So a lot of expectations on the shoulders of the young Harry Brook. And he failed to deliver. If you personally ask me, yes, he's had a few starts here and there, a 40 here of 50 in the Lord's Test match. So he has had a few starts here and there, but he's failed to grab his opportunity with both hands, which is something he did quite well today. Batted at number 3 in the first innings, but it didn't quite work out for him over there. I think he scored just 2 or 3 runs in the first innings. Then when England lost Ben Duckett during the chase in the second innings, they propelled Moeen Ali to bat at number 3, something which he has done in the past in his test career, which saw Harry Brook come out and bat in his regular number 5 slot, where he's really, really good. And once he got that stability at number 5, he showed why he is one of the most highly regarded young cricketers as far as test cricket is concerned. And the 75 was really, really crucial as far as England is concerned, because otherwise there was barely any contributions. Joe Root looked it didn't quite look like Joe Root. He was felt like he was in a bit of a rush. He scored 21. Ben Stokes scored 80 in the first innings, but just 13 when it mattered during the run chase. And Johnny Bairstow was cleaned up by Mitchell Starc. He went for just 5 runs. The partnership which the partnership between Harry Brook and Chris Woakes was really important, which saw them get real close to the Australian total of 251. I think that partnership was somewhere of 60 odd runs, if I'm not wrong, 59 between Chris Woakes and Harry Brook, which saw them get ever so closer to the target of 251. And when Mark Wood came in, he just went bang bang, and the target was achieved with quite ease. Let's talk about Australia as well, because England have had some match-winning performance. We have already talked about Mark Wood, Chris Woakes, Harry Brook with the bat as well. The credit, I think the player of the match as far as the Australian side is concerned, eventually the player of the match was given to Mark Wood, if you're wondering. But I think Mitchell Starc was brilliant with the ball once again. I think he picked up 2 wickets in the first innings, 5 in the second innings, 7 wickets for him. Pat Cummins also picking up 7 wickets in the match, 6 in the first innings, 1 in the second innings. I think the Australian bowling looked impeccable. Unfortunately, Scott Boland had little to no impact in proceedings. No wickets in the first innings and no wickets in the second innings as well. Based on that, I would be surprised if Josh Hazlewood returns to the starting 11 in the 4th test match, which is starting in 10 days time. Todd Murphy picked up 1 wicket as well, but the bowling was kept alive and taken care of by both Starc and Pat Cummins. As far as their batting is concerned, I think he brushed upon it earlier in the podcast, where Mitch Marsh scored 118 of 118 deliveries, 17 fours and 4 sixes in that first innings. He was just magnificent. Wickets were tumbling all over him, all around him, that is, and none of the Australian batters right up until Mitchell Marsh were able to score that freely. There were starts here and there. Khwaja had 13, Labuschagne at 21, Steve Smith at 22, Travis Head at 39. But the way Mitchell Marsh played in that first inning, it looked like he's batting on a completely different wicket. It didn't feel like the overhead conditions or the green tint in the wicket is really bothering him, and he just took the attack to the English side. Now, England have been playing this aggressive style of cricket for over 1 year now, which was slightly diluted and which was slightly dissolved in this test match. But overall, they have been the ones who have been playing this aggressive style of cricket. But it was very similar, if not the same kind of an innings played by Mitch Marsh, and it was just magnificent innings. And the way he counter-attacked and played in that, I guess it was the second session, he just completely took the game to a different level, because had he not scored that 118 runs, Australia would have struggled to even get past 150, 175, and they would have definitely struggled to get to that magical number of 200. But it was Mitch Marsh who carried on with that innings, and it's really difficult for Australia now to bring in Cameron Green into the starting 11 with the way Mitchell Marsh has played in this test match. Not only he made 118 in the first innings, he also took 1 wicket in the first innings and 1 wicket in the second innings as well, twice dismissing Zach Crawley, if I'm not wrong. So Mitch Marsh has done bits with the bat and with the ball as well, so credit to him where credit is due, and it was really exciting to see someone return to the test fraternity and play like he never left. But in the end, it was a defeat for Australia, their first defeat on this tour of England. Previously, prior to the test at Headingley, they had won 3 test matches in a row, 2 test matches in the Ashes at Edgbaston and Lords, and before the Ashes commenced, they won the World Test Championship final against India at the Oval as well. So they had won 3 test matches on the bounce, but they finally met their match at Headingley, where England have kept the Ashes alive once again, just like how Ben Stokes commanded that performance in Headingley back in 2019. It was this time Chris Woakes and Mark Wood doing the same and keeping the Ashes alive for England as they head into the test match at Old Trafford, which is the 4th test match. So 2 more test matches remain in this Ashes series. The 4th test match is in Manchester, Old Trafford in Manchester on the 19th of July. So another short break to recoup for both the sides here, and 10 days for even injured players to recover, 10 days for any out of form players to come back to form. But yeah, a lot to talk about for that test match, and I'll have a separate podcast talking about the preview as I always do. But for the time being, it has been a wonderful test match. A little less scoring, a little low scoring is what I wanted to say, but nonetheless, all 3 test matches in this Ashes series have been nail-biting stuff. So close. I think all 3 test matches could have gone either side, but 2 of them have gone to Australia and 1 of them has gone to England finally. Australia can still wrap up the Ashes series if they win at Old Trafford, but you never know what the future lies, and in present, England still have a chance to not only make a comeback, but a chance to win the remaining 2 test matches at Old Trafford and at Oval to regain the Ashes from Australia. So yeah, that's the review done for the 3rd test match at Headingley. Once again, if you liked what I talked about, then make sure you are liking, sharing, subscribing on YouTube. If you are listening the audio podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast, then make sure you are giving me those wonderful 5-star ratings. However, for the time being, this is me, Vatsal Vora, signing off. Ciao for now.